Hey everyone, and welcome to Elsewhere in the Multiverse, the comic book podcast from MailFuzz TV. I am Peter, and on the other side of the screen is Connor.
It is. I'm still going to complain that it's not a comic book podcast. Saw your intro out. It's just shoddy.
Just, that's what it is. That's what it is. Just going to slightly change those pages to Twitter.
Yeah. Look at this shoddy work.
I noticed it early. It's fine. So yeah, we talk about comic books on this show. We have a DC Comics podcast called Comics from the Multiverse, which is the two of us plus Matt, and we talk about all the DC books of the week. We do that at the weekend, and then we get to the end of Tuesday, right before the new comics come out, and me and Connor talk about the Marvel comics we've been reading, as well as Image, Dark Horse, Indie, etc.
Just everything else.
Everything else, basically, yes. So coming up on this week's show, we have issue 1 of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, issue 1 of Captain Marvel, we have Avengers 12, Uncanny X-Men number 9, Miles Morales Spider-Man issue 2, X-23 number 8, Domino number 10, just basically just the whole miniseries Cora's going to talk about. We have Star Wars 59, Star Wars Age of Republic, Jango Fett issue 1, we have Gunning for Hits number 1, from Image. We have Die number 2, Blackbird number 4, Outer Darkness number 3, which I caught up on. I'll be talking about that. We have William Gibson's Alien 3 issue 3, and we have Aliens Dusty Dust issue 4. That is the rundown of the books this week.
It's a lot.
Audio listeners, expect this one to probably be split in two. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying. Who knows? Maybe we'll be quicker than I'm expecting. Maybe we'll be like,
yeah, let's bash this out 9 minutes.
Quick 5-minute jabs for each one. Even that, actually, 5 minutes times what? How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Oh boy. I hope there's no news.
There's a little bit. Not much. It's not much. It's just like two little things. Little things. You're lucky. I was checking just before we started if the sales figures for December had went up.
I'd have refused to do them this episode.
Luckily that they had not went up yet, so it's fine. It's fine. So it's something that you definitely knew about. Kieron Gillen's leaving Star Wars.
Yeah, he mentioned it in his newsletter of all places. I think 67 is his last issue. I think he said.
Yeah, this was a day after we recorded last week. This was last Wednesday. This news came out. So yeah, I have nothing to add about it, but I thought it was worth mentioning because he's been doing Star Wars for a while.
Yeah, yes. But I mean, I'm intrigued now because we've got a few months still before they have to solicit after that. So speculation on if the book survive. I'm assuming it will survive in some form. It's getting up on the numbering for Marvel anyway, so I'm assuming they'll want to just keep that going.
Or renumber it.
They could.
I feel a renumbering coming on. And the other news from Marvel as well, actually, is that we're getting a mini-series in April from writer Tini Howard and artist Ariel Olivetti. And it's going to be a Thanos mini, which is a prequel story, and it's about Thanos and his relationship with Gamora, pre all the big stories, essentially, when Gamora's a kid.
Okay.
That's, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not super excited by the prospect of this. Thanos as a character is not someone I'm interested enough to seek out stories by yet. Now, having said that, I've not read Infinity Gauntlet. I've not read all the big Infinity stories that are real. I read Jonathan Hickman's Infinity Event, so I've read a bit of Thanos in the comics, but not a lot.
Literally, my only exposure to Thanos in the comics is Cosmic Ghost Rider. I'm not sure that really counts, to be quite honest with you.
Probably not. I'm worried that Thanos will be like Iron Man for me, where you take away the actor from the movies and all of a sudden he's less interesting.
I get that. I don't feel like Thanos had as much personality added in the same way that Iron Man did.
That's true. But right now I'm thinking Josh Brolin. That's what I've got in my head when I think of Thanos.
Sure.
But hey, so yeah, miniseries is coming in April. It's just called Thanos issue 1. Which is kind of annoying because there's so many books, but at this point probably just called Thanos. Give it a subtitle. Thanos.
Yeah, I'm sure there was one like a year or two ago as well. It's a mini. Give it a subtitle. It's fine.
Call it Thanos the Dad or Thanos.
Just Thanos and Gamora.
Thanos and Gamora, yes. You know, pick your poison. Anything would do.
Yeah.
But that's basically the news though for the comic book stuff. Some news for us though. This is a new thing. Due to demand, we've actually got some stores now. Both a UK store and a US store for merch. Should you want to get some of our logos on a T-shirt or a hoodie?
Yeah, it's kind of weird promoting this on like episode 3 of a show.
It is weird. But now, admittedly, at the time of recording, there's no elsewhere merch specifically. But I'll add that soon. But it is worth mentioning up until the 20th of the month. That is January. That is. We have there's a 20% off code. Now the site that we've put the store on, Spreadshirt is called. They seem to have like codes for discounts like for a few days every week. Essentially, it looks like, because in the seller section there's a little like schedule of like codes coming up. Almost.
Yeah. I guess we'll always just promote whatever code is
yes.
the new one when it changes.
Yes.
Maybe not on every show. Maybe on like the big weekly shows. Maybe.
Yeah. I don't want to spam Twitter and Facebook by constantly. Hey, here's this week's code. But if I go, I'm just going to get the codes up right now.
But just know, there's pretty much always a code. So if you're wanting to buy something, just tweet at us, send us a comment somewhere, and we can tell you what the current code is also, if you haven't caught it elsewhere.
I think I've just realised I said in the post I put on Facebook that the code was valid till the 20th of February. I meant the 20th of January. It's not that long a code.
You should probably go correct that.
I'll edit that after we're done recording. But yes, the codes are just slightly different. The UK store is shirts19. So it's plural shirts19, all one word. US store is shirt19, just singular shirt19, all one word.
Yeah.
So that gets you 20% off T-shirts specifically. Sometimes they'll do a 15% code off everything. Sometimes they'll put, because there's one coming up. It's like 15% off green items, which is a really weird one.
I can tell you why that is. Is that coming up mid-February sort of time by any chance?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's so that you can buy your stuff for Paddy's Day.
There you go.
Time.
Oh, this is a theme for it.
I'm pretty sure that's why. So it'll arrive in time.
All right, I'll give them points. That's a decent enough reason to sell your green stuff on sale. I can see it. So yeah, there'll be links to the stores in the description. So you can click on them. They're not easy links to say out. So I'm just links in the description. Easy.
Just go click it. Yeah.
So yeah, so that was worth mentioning. I think that's it for updates. I think we can pretty much get on to books now. I'm going to go let my cat out because he's kind of staring at the handle. But we'll be on to books.
Cats are the worst.
We'll be on to books in a second. You can be excited.
Cats are so bad. This is what they do all the time. They demand attention. You have to just do what they're like kids. You can't just leave them alone.
No, they're better than kids.
Oh, I don't know about that. They're on par. Equally awful.
Better than kids. I'm saying it. So, yes. So first up this week in terms of books, we have Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man issue 1 by
Tom Taylor.
Also art by Jaunn Cabal. So this is the new Spider-Man book. We have a second Peter Parker Spider-Man book, and obviously we like Tom Taylor a lot. Hence why someone made us a sound clip of that.
Yep.
So this is the more given the title. I don't know what I was expecting before I read it. I wasn't really looking into what it was going to be beyond just Tom Taylor's writing it. Fine, cool, I'm in. But it is a more grounded Spider-Man story. It's not dealing with some of the larger-than-life stuff yet.
Yeah.
It's we meet people in his apartment building. Obviously, we know his roommates from the other book, and they pop up here again as well. But we meet an old lady in the apartment. We meet these new neighbours who are moving, and he saves this dad and daughter from a traffic disaster at the start of the issue, basically. And the plot revolves around this neighbour that he's got in the building who needs a superhero. She's scared to come out of her apartment. We don't know why at first, and she needs a superhero. She insults Spider-Man, says, "Do you know any better superheroes?" Because the old lady who keeps giving Peter apples for some reason kind of sets this up. Says, "Oh, hey, you know Spider-Man? Go and..." In fact, one of my favourite lines of the book might be the narration from Peter when he when he realizes that this was a setup, he's like, "That elevator hater set me up." I like that line. That was funny.
Yeah.
And we see him, like, he's associating with some of the vets that are close by, because what the people he saves try to give him a tip, and he's like, "No, go and give it to the other people who need it." And then he ends up having a hot dog with the people who got the money, and it's showing his, like, the actual neighborliness, the friendly, down to earth kind of street level,
the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yes,
is that what you're saying?
I'm trying to describe it without using the title, because it's just because you could just keep using the title over and
you
over again.
already used friendly and neighborhood, so
separately.
Not that separately. You just used them in the other order.
Shut up. Look. I'm making a point. That it's a very focused book, and at least to begin with here, in the sense that it's being more down to earth and street level.
Yeah.
And then the thing is that some bad guys come and actually attack them, and look kind of the part of an organization, a mob kind of thing. And Spider-Man's like, okay, right, I'm about to get punched. My spider sense is kicking in, and he's like, okay, just pretend that it hurts, because don't want to reveal that I'm Spider-Man. And he actually gets knocked out. Whoever punches him is actually super powered enough to knock him out.
Yeah.
And he wakes up like hours later, and the neighbor's missing, but she did plant a washing basket with 2 super powered kids in his apartment first. This is
who may or may not really like apples.
And they've got glowing eyes, and this is clearly what she was protecting in her apartment and what she wanted help with.
Yeah,
is that the bad guys are probably after the kids. So if these kids are actually based on anything, or they're pre-established characters, no idea who they are.
Yeah,
I'm assuming they're new.
over our heads.
Yeah, assuming they're new. What did you think of the? We'll talk about the backup separately, but what did you think of the main story?
Yeah, it's pretty damn good, isn't it?
Yeah, that's solid. It's got a good sense of humor. I think I like it more than Amazing. I mean, I'm enjoying Amazing quite a bit, but I think naturally I just like Taylor's writing a bit more.
That's fair. I definitely like Taylor more as a writer as well. I wouldn't necessarily immediately say that I like this book more already, because Amazing's had.
I'll put it another way. It's a better start than Amazing. I liked all the stuff that I've liked the most out of Amazing. The run right now is been later on. It's been.
Yeah, no, I agree. This definitely got off the ground better.
Yeah, so. Because I think there's like this first issue syndrome that you have to kind of like establish the status quo of what your book is, and then also introduce the plot. It's kind of similar to what we talk about with pilots and TV.
Yeah.
Even though obviously there's some advantages to these comic characters where, okay, it's Spider-Man, we know who Spider-Man is, we don't have to explain everything, but it still has that thing where, okay, this is the book where we're going to get to know his neighbours, we're going to get to know these characters, this is the sort of thing we're going to focus on, and here's also what the main plot's going to be for this first arc. So it has to do all these things. It juggles it pretty well. His interaction with the various neighbours is typically pretty fun. Yeah, the old lady's kind of funny when she's like, "I hate elevators." Like, "Oh, why do you hate elevators?" "I lost a liver in one." And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." "Nah, I'm just kidding. I always give them away." No, they're death traps. Don't be silly. Yeah. I'm not going to know.
Yeah, she makes fun of you. Oh, it's just you're just hanging on a string.
Yeah. But again,
yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, it's a Spider-Man joke. It's fine. It works. Art's pretty good.
It is. There's something that's really like. I'm just going to get something out of the way first, which isn't specific to this book, but I noticed it more in this book than I did in Amazing.
Yes.
Is that I don't like how small the spider is on the front. It feels really small.
That's that Homecoming effect, because Homecoming has a very small spider on it.
It's tiny to the point where when the kid goes squish and hits it, the kid's entire hand covers it.
Yes. Well, I guess that's what lends that joke, though, is that she thinks it's an actual spider.
I get that, but I don't know. It doesn't work for me.
I'm not saying that justifies it. I'm just saying that's why that joke exists.
But now I'm going to get to a smaller touch that I really like in the art. Possibly one of my favorite touches. And the art's pretty good, right? Really clean, vibrant, colorful, right? I think one of my favorite touches, when they do one of the acrobatic sections, it's very typical to see the faded out version, to show the progress. It does a fantastic thing here that the faded out versions are also in a much more classic costume, with the bright blue and the red, and the spider on the back being the full block, different shape a little bit. You can see it early on when he's jumping over the bus, the yellow van.
The van. Yeah. No, it's a nice touch. Honestly, my only complaint with they are actually, early on is that see the 2-page spread of Spider-Man going through the city.
Yeah.
I feel like his head feels a bit weird to me. Like, just compared to what I'm used to, like, Spider-Man's head looking like, it feels a bit, I don't know, more round, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's part of the way he's hunched over and his collarbones are up.
Yeah, it may be that. It may be that. It just his head just looked a little bit weird on that page to me. Other than that, though, I really like the art. Like you say, it's very clean. It's very, very simple, and I don't mean that in any kind of negative way. Like it doesn't clutter things up. It keeps it to a nice.
Yeah, there's no stupid details all over the place. Exactly, just as much as it needs to. You know, like a wall can be a plain wall without without there needing to be a pattern all the time.
Yeah, it makes for a very pleasant kind of a visual experience.
Yeah.
No, it's a good style. Also, it's nice to see that the awful neighbor is a, or not, the awful roommate, I should say, is a running thing. What's his face? Boomerang.
Yeah, he is pretty awful.
He's stealing Peter's underwear.
Yeah.
As you do. The only other thing is, I hope these two kids at the end, I hope they end up leading to Mothra.
I'd be down for that.
I could do that, yeah. So, issue 1 does have a backup. It has a backup. It's obviously a bigger issue. Marvel likes to do the bigger issue ones with the $5 price tag. Different artist here. I'll get to the artist at the end because the title, the credits page is at the end. But it's an Aunt May story. We see Peter with Mary Jane. It's this kind of sweet moment where he takes Mary Jane, who's also got a spider suit on, but with the red hair flowing out of it, up to the top of the Empire State Building to just have some. What meal was it? Breakfast or dinner or lunch? What one was it? I can't remember. But
breakfast.
It was breakfast. It was for sunrise. That's right.
Yeah. Because it was cold.
Yeah, and it being kind of sweet, and he's he's like, let's huggle for warmth, and she's like, you brought a blanket, and he's like, of course I did. It's freezing, but let's huggle. Huggling's better. But it's Aunt May talking about how she's kind of worried and she doesn't want to lie to Peter, but she's keeping something from him. And then the reveal at the end is that she found a lump and she's at the hospital checking to see what she has and what's going on. Doesn't reveal anything much beyond that, but it's just enough of a gut punch at the end to be like, we're doing this.
Yeah, I mean, she's at a cancer center. It's pretty clear.
Yeah.
I'll see where this is going.
Yeah. I sense the sadness will be brought.
It's whether or not they commit to it in the end, I don't know.
Yeah, like, are they actually making a choice here in the long run that this is going to be the death of Aunt May? Probably not, because I'm sure that I feel like the death of most of these characters is teased every couple of years.
Yeah.
When do you know when it's actually going to stick? And even when it does stick, it never sticks forever because comics. But do we actually go through with the death? I don't know. But the story works, though. It still hits with a gut punch. I love Aunt May sticking up to Kingpin, who's the mayor right now. She's like, I'm not doing a TV interview for him. Like, he's a criminal.
Yeah.
I like that. I also like Spider-Man riding the school bus with the kid to stick up for him.
My biggest real criticism of this backup is that I think we see too much of Peter and Spider-Man. Especially like the scene with MJ. While I like that scene, don't get me wrong, I feel like it's a full page there without any of May's letter, and it feels like it kind of distracts from the pacing for me.
Yeah, because the school bus thing is important because he's actually trying to follow Aunt May because he's concerned because she's hiding something, and he gets distracted because obviously he's a good guy and he can't just not help when he's passing by. Yeah, that's fair. I think maybe the purpose of it is to show that. Not that he's doing anything wrong, but the idea that he's wrapped up in his own life and he is kind of not aware of what's going on with me.
I get it. I just I felt the pacing was just a touch off because of it.
That's fair.
Still pretty good overall, though.
No, that's good. They're doing 2 issues this month, so we have actually the second issue in 2 weeks.
Of course we do.
I believe it's monthly after that, though.
Cool.
So, no, the first issue was really good. It's got the voice down. It's got the interaction between the characters. We'll see what the main plot is. It's hard to really have a gauge and do I like this first arc story yet, because we've only really had the tease of it so far. But I did like the stuff with him thinking, oh, I'll take this punch, I'll pretend that it hurts, and then
everything that's there is very good.
Yeah,
it's just maybe not quite enough to really get a handle on the book.
Yeah, I'm very trusting though, because I don't know if I remember loving like X-Men, or not X-Men, All New Wolverine issue 1 like on its own. I think it was the first arc that told me I liked that book. It wasn't just like...
Yeah, I can hands down, because I went back and read it after you and a few others were raving about it.
Yeah.
And it took me, I don't know, 10, 12 issues to really go, okay, I get it now. Like, it was good, don't get me wrong, from the start. But it wasn't like, okay, this is a fantastic book, until after, a dozen issues.
Yeah, but Taylor's earned that trust.
Yeah.
I mean, not that he needs trust. It's still good. Like, it's still really good. But like, he's earned the trust to assume that it's going to get better.
Definitely.
So, what we rating Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man issue 1?
Yeah, I'll give it an 8.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give it a solid 8 as well. It's very good. Looking forward to seeing what they do in issue 2. So that will take us on to Captain Marvel issue 1, the other big issue 1 this week. Kelly Thompson writing, with Carmen Carnero on the art. And again, bigger issue 1. No backup though. This was just all main story.
Yeah.
And it gave you kind of a bit of everything. It gave you just a nice big bit of action with her and her best friend, Spider-Woman, battling this cracking alien thing that just happens to be in New York. I was kind of laughing as I was reading this, because I was thinking, how many random things like this happen in this universe, and in this New York?
Far too many.
Like, I feel like your regular commute to work would probably, like, every other day there'd be something. Like, oh, there's an alien on that street. There's a this and that street.
I would dread the idea of house insurance in New York in this world.
I like to think that Tony Stark's subsidising the whole thing though, and making it.
Oh,
affordable.
he better bloody be.
He can afford it. It's fine. So I have never read a Captain Marvel comic.
Me either.
This was the first solo focused Captain Marvel book I'd ever read. I do intend on reading Kelly Sue's run at some point. I haven't got around to it yet, but first time I've ever done it. No opinion really going in, one way or the other. I was kind of excited though, because it was Kelly Thompson, and I've been enjoying her books, and her voice is definitely there. The banter between her and Jessica is really good. Early on at one point, they're teaming up against the alien Kraken thing, and Captain Marvel says, "Oh, I'm going to lift it, you fight up top," and then the next page is Jessica's on top, hitting its eye or whatever it is, and saying, "Hey, I thought you said this was going to go up," and she's like, "How about you try lifting this thing?" And I was like, it made me laugh. I was like, okay, the voices are there.
It's maybe my least favorite Kelly Thompson issue yet, out of all the stuff I've read recently.
I probably like this a bit more than some of the Mr. and Mrs. X issues, I'd say.
Oh, yeah, okay, I suppose. It's kind of on par with a lot of that for me, in the sense I maybe inherently like it a bit more than some of those, in that I know who all the characters in this are.
Oh, that's true. I think I like the issue quite a bit. I think it suffers kind of from some of the issue 1 things, where it has to deal, because the cliffhanger at the end is kind of like, okay, here's what the first arc's really going to be.
Yeah.
And everything before that is kind of just like, and don't get me wrong, this is actually a good thing for us, because we don't really know much about Carol Danvers, but the fact that she was dating War Machine, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think the problem is, it feels like, given that this is an extra long first issue, and we only set up the plot on the very last page, even though the stuff before it's good, it feels like it takes quite a long time to get to the point.
It does. Most of it feels like it's going to be useful in the long run. It's kind of one of these things where, again, you have to give it that first issue kind of leeway, because everything it kind of does seems like it's going to be important. The idea that Carol's got a kind of a shitty public image, she has to kind of work to fix that, which is why Tony has his scenes with her. The introduction of this other character that she's going to be kind of mentoring, Hazmat. I actually like that name a lot. That's a cool name.
That's a good name.
So I like that. I enjoyed the fight with Nuclear Man. The Avengers showing up and being like, "Oh, you called us for Nuclear Man? He's puny." And then 2 seconds later, Carol ends up diving into this portal, and the rest of the Avengers can't make it in time.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, this is fairly enjoyable. Yeah, I almost just wish this was spread out over a few issues. Like maybe if we'd like jump straight to the nuclear world she's in, and
Yeah,
like did some
like
flashbacks here or
flashback.
there.
Yeah, I think because on top of all that, you've got all the stuff with Iron Man, and the journalist stuff that introduces.
Yeah, which I suppose is important because the bad guy does kidnap the journalist, and she goes into this world with her.
Yeah, no, it is important in context. It's just
Yeah.
okay. There's a lot going on in this issue.
I'd have saved Rhodey. I'd have saved Rhodey for arc 2. Bring him in after we've done the first story.
I agree. I don't think we needed that much of him here.
And maybe Hazmat. It depends, because given that we're dealing with Nuclear Man, I feel like Hazmat's going to end up being incorporated into this because
Quite possibly.
because it feels like her power set might be relevant to what's going on. So in that case, fair enough. I feel like Rhodey though, like not that I didn't like that scene because they have good, the dialogue was good and so on.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just, do we need it now?
Yeah, maybe it's something to leave for later. And I wouldn't even replaced it with it. I'd just cut 7-8 pages out the middle of the book just to hasten the pace a bit.
Yeah, but then you have to knock $1 off the price, and Marvel don't want that for an issue 1.
This is true. This is true. But I mean, they're not huge complaints in the grand scheme of things, though. Like, I like the voice. I like the art quite a bit. I thought
it looks good.
Carnero's art was really good. Because I wasn't like super in love with the main cover.
No, I wasn't either.
So I was glad to realize that it wasn't the same artist in the interiors.
Yeah. Who was that cover? Because
I don't know. Find the credits page and
that's what I'm looking for. See, it's Amanda Connor and Paul Mounts, and I assume Paul Mounts contributed quite a bit there because that doesn't look like any Amanda Connor thing I've ever seen. I don't know.
Unless it's the inks are really
maybe,
I
but I
know.
mean, even the face there doesn't look like anything I've ever seen her do before.
No, that's fair. That's fair. So
But the interior art's good.
That's
That's what matters, right?
yeah, it's colourful. It's bright. Actually, here's the other thing that maybe they should. I mean, even though I enjoyed the scene, maybe calling in the Avengers for a scene was maybe something not to do in issue 1. Maybe let it focus on her. I mean, it's fine. Spider-Woman's great because it's her best friend. Establish that relationship because it feels like she's going to be a supporting character in the book ongoing. So that's
I
fine.
get the point is that it's showing us that she's capable without the Avengers. Like they get there and it's like, well, we didn't really need to be here. She's got us under control. I don't think it was necessary though.
Yeah. I mean, I also sells her quite a bit as well because she makes it to the portal and the rest of them can't make it. They all like hit the wall as it were and be like, oh, that was painful.
Yeah.
She made that look easy. So I think it's a solid first issue. I'd probably give it like a 7.5. I think it's good. I think I'm on board to see more and see what it does.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with a straight 7 personally, but
That's fair.
I think I feel pretty similar to you overall.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to issue 2. I'm looking forward to seeing, and again, now that we've got the setup out of the way, just what's the plot? Because that last page, she's in what looks like Fallout, with like a team of rebels, and she's got like her costume's kind of like been torn, and she's got gear on, and it's I'm like, all right, okay,
I'm into that.
We're doing post-apocalyptic Captain Marvel. That's all right. We can do that.
Yeah.
All right, then we'll move on to Avengers issue 12. Jason Aaron writing, Ed McGuinness on the art. This was an issue focusing on Black Panther as he recruits kind of the support staff for the Avengers base and like other operations. Some characters I'd heard of, most of them I had not. But,
yeah, pretty much.
It was kind of a fun idea though. I kind of liked the concept of this issue, and like the one that I knew that I was happy to see was Gru. I read Aaron's Wolverine and the X-Men. And
okay, I was not familiar with Gru.
Gru is a major character in that. So I was actually, because they teased him for a bit. You see his shadow at first, and then you get the overhead shot, and you're like, who is this guy? He's like, this is the brainy guy. And then you finally see him, and I went, oh yeah, Gru. And I loved it. Actually,
I mean, what's funny is I'm just looking through it. It's Brew.
It's Brew. Fair enough. I'm misremembering the name. But the point I'm making though is that it was funny to see him again, and the fact that he even drops a reference, he's like, oh, if Professor Logan could see me now, because that was the period of X-Men where Logan was teaching the X-Men.
Right.
So this is the thing. I would never have been able to name this character like before I read this again.
You couldn't name him just now.
Well, this is the point I'm making, is that I'd forgotten he existed until I seen him and went, oh yeah,
that little bastard.
Yeah, I like Brew. Brew's good.
Yeah, just I know we're obviously not talking about Thor yet because you're not caught up. But this week's issue had some interesting cross pollination with this. The seeds are coming together for where they're going to be. The two books are kind of coming together in that. That issue was very much to do with the agents of Wakanda as well. In the same way this is. Yeah.
So. We see kind of what he's setting up around various places, because it starts with Jarvis, and he's like, Jarvis, like, we kind of need to replace you, but one man's not good enough. So we get a gorilla dude who I'm not familiar with.
Nope, couldn't tell you who he is.
Well, it tells you later why it's Gorilla Man. He gets the original Wasp. He's kind of the leader of this team. Kazar, who goes diving for recon in Atlantis without any apparatus. He's just like, nah, I can just swim, it's fine.
Yeah, he's kind of cool.
I don't know if it's cool.
It is kind of cool.
He's a bit too sword and sorcery looking for my taste.
Exactly why he's kind of cool.
Nah, I'm not feeling it. The gorilla with the machine gun is far more my speed.
Do you know what's more interesting, though?
Yes.
The astronaut man-wolf.
Astronaut man-wolf's pretty cool. The other thing we set up here is that we got vampire issues coming up, because obviously we have what's going on in Atlantis, we have War of the Realms building up, but we also have something going on in Transylvania. There's a civil war brewing in the vampire world. We already have Morbius kind of being picked up. That's when we see the astronaut man-wolf. But the big reveal at the end here, which was obviously teased before, is that Blade is now an Avenger, and is kind of there to be the expert, really, I guess, on the vampires.
That makes sense.
It does make sense. So that's what it is. And there's a bunch of other characters that I've never heard of who are like added to the team for various things. American Eagle, who's a super cop apparently. Dr. Nemesis, who's a mutant. Funnily enough, he's actually in the background of one of the panels on Uncanny this week, and I noticed him because I read Avengers first, and I went, oh yeah, I just learned who that was.
Okay, I read Uncanny first, so I obviously didn't catch that.
Yeah. We got Fat Cobra.
It's a great name.
Dr. Nemesis has X-ray eyes, which is cool. So
that is cool.
I'll point that out. So that was basically the issue. This was very much a setup issue, but this was a very good setup issue, I thought, because it was a fun recruitment thing. It was interesting, a lot of characters, and it's actually set up 3 different arcs. It's continuing the Atlantis stuff. It's setting up this vampire thing, that seems to be the next arc of the book. And obviously it's building to War of the Realms. It's doing a lot of things at the same time. So it's very much a superhero comic in a monthly way.
It is, yeah.
But it was an enjoyable one.
It was, and I thought the dialogue was quite interesting. Well written. It's probably the most I've been into the Black Panther stuff so far.
Yeah, no, I agree. I even and you got a sense of some of the characters a little bit when they were introduced, like Gorilla Man or whatever his name is. People can tell us in the comments.
I think it was Gorilla Man. I'll have a look.
It was something like that. Like he was resistant at first and thought he was there to be killed, and I never heard of this character, but just from that conversation, I get the idea that he became a talking gorilla because he killed the previous talking gorilla, and that sometimes people try to kill him because they believe it will give them riches and eternal life. But
yeah, I think you're immortal as the gorilla,
but
unless someone kills you. But you don't age, right?
But you're a gorilla. You're a talking gorilla.
Yeah,
which is not the worst thing in the world, but I mean,
reasonable trade-off.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. But yeah, that was basically the book. It was a solid kind of setup issue.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah. What are you giving it?
I give it a 7.5 because I think it balanced all the things quite nicely.
As for swapping from the last one, I'm going to go with a 7. But I enjoyed it. Like I thought it was a solid, issue. So we will move on then to the aforementioned Uncanny X-Men issue 9. Matt Rosenberg, Kelly Thompson, and Ed Brisson all writing. Yidiray Cinar on the art, if I am even remotely pronouncing that right. So second last part of the book, this arc, the penultimate issue of the arc, and X-Man's in Legion, and lots of fighting Legion happens. Is basically the issue.
This issue goes in pretty quick, which is different to most of the issues of this book, which I found have been quite dialogue heavy.
Which I think incidentally led to it being. We said the last issue I think was our favourite so far. I think this one is at least on par with it, maybe even a little bit better.
Yeah, I think this is probably the best one so far.
I think it handles what it does quite well. And you have that neat moment where Jean calls out to all the other X-Men, where she's like, "To me, my X-Men," and obviously my eye gravitated immediately to Honey Badger and the roll call, but
of course,
because Honey Badger is one of the best X-Men characters, I will fight anyone who says otherwise. But yeah, so that's a neat moment, and then X-Man's like, "Nah, I'm calling my horseman." But yeah, Armor steps up. Armor has this insane plan to like sort of hold the villains in her bubble, which includes Storm at this point, because X-Man takes over Storm.
Yeah.
And she's got like the other young guys like try to fight them off in the bubble, and it's basically the reason why she's got them in her armor bubble is just to like break the control that X-Man has over the telepath, so that Jean can call out to the other X-Men. It's just like basically just blocking the signal for a bit.
Yeah. I think it was specifically so she get Pixie to teleport, because it was blocking her powers as well.
Yeah, because Pixie's the one who teleports and collects them all.
Yeah.
It's one of those comic book things where you know exactly what the plan is. Like, because she calls out to all the X-Men, "To me, my X-Men," and then she's like, "Hey, Pixie, teleport. I'm going to guide you and and plant all the directions." And it's like she's going to pick them all up. They're all going to pop up at the end.
And sure enough, that's the last page.
That's the last page. It's a good last page. I mean,
although I don't spy Honey Badger on that page. Maybe I'm. Oh no, there she is.
I saw her. Yeah, she's up top somewhere.
Yeah, she's kind of at the back.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's there.
Outside of that, Apocalypse tries to kill the Senator. Kitty saves him, and he's like, "Why did you save me after all the mean things I've said about mutants and X-Men?" And she's like, "Because we're X-Men. we're heroes, damn it."
Pretty much.
You prick.
Yeah.
Beast is confronting the one young X-Men kid that I barely know, Anole or Anole.
Yeah, the guy who stole the cure.
The cure, yeah, and leaked it to the outside world.
I will say that's maybe the one beat I'm not really feeling, because I've read very little X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
But
that feels like you've heard about it done 100 times before.
Yeah, I mean, one of the only X-Men things I've actually read is Joss Whedon's Astonishing X-Men.
Joss Whedon, you say? What's he done?
Yeah, nothing else. He's done X-Men.
He did the hit television show.
He's done X-Men.
Hit television show, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I think you'll find.
He did X-Men. And I'm pretty sure the second arc in that was this. I mean, hell, it wasn't good, but X-Men 3, the movie, was this.
Yeah. Well, this one sounds a little bit different in that it's something that they're going to implement so that no one can be born a mutant, right? This is more cutting it off at the source kind of thing.
I mean, sure, but that's just more of a technicality.
Sure, I've just said there's a slight difference. I mean, I agree that the argument that Anole makes is that no one has to be a monster like me. That makes me think of other mutants who've argued this in the past.
Yeah,
I do like the idea that Beast is the one arguing against it, because Beast obviously naturally had some I'm a blue monster kind of plots before.
I could probably do with this thing. Yeah.
He can understand that feeling, but he's smart enough to get past it. But it was a solid issue. It was an action issue, but the beats played really well. Has the big last page that you want. We'll see how the final issue handles the story, because we know it's going to set up the next phase of this book and set up all those minis that are coming. So
yeah, I have a fear that the next issue may be convoluted.
I feel like it probably will be. I feel like the next issue might be one of the weakest ones.
I agree, just because of how much it has to actually do, and that's a lot of things for it to do in a relatively short amount of pages.
Yeah, I thought the art was not bad, actually.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. It was always clear as to what was going on in the fight, and given that this is mostly a fighting issue, that's quite important.
I thought in particular the second page of Legion, it's actually X-Man obviously, but it's Legion looking really angry. I thought that looked particularly good. There's a lot of detail in him and just his anger and expression. I thought, that was pretty good. Because obviously it's been up and down because it's been weekly.
Weekly, yeah.
But no, I can't really fault the art too much in this issue, so fair play. So what are you giving it?
I'll give it a 7.5.
I'm coming.
And you vanished. Okay.
Cats. I am giving it I'll give it an 8. I'll give it an 8. I like this.
Fair enough.
I think it's improved quite a bit. I do think it's going to dip again next issue before we get to the real kind of part of the run, but we've braced ourselves. We can go.
Yeah, what my fear is that when it gets to the next part, I think we're dropping down to one writer at a time, which in theory should be a good thing, right? It should focus it in. But I don't know. This has kind of been working for now. So my concern is that the change will not necessarily be as good.
I'll see. We're getting Cyclops though, and Wolverine.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're getting some. Not necessarily my favourites though. I mean, a lot of my favourites are on this book already. So, which is why I think it's tempting to read some of the other books because that's where they're going.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So we'll see. That is Uncanny X-Men. That'll take us on to Miles Morales, Spider-Man issue 2, Saladin Ahmed writing, and Javier Garron on the art. So we had the last issue. We found out that some villains are using kids in kind of suits that are controlling them to do villainy things, basically. And Rhino's niece, or his ex's niece, is involved. Yeah. And obviously, Spider-Man's love interest, Barbara, her cousin, I think it is the other kid that we had the big cliffhanger with. So we have Spider-Man, we have Miles and Rhino kind of working together, kind of begrudgingly. They agree to meet up the next night and try and pick up on the trail and see what they can find out in the meantime. Rhino's going to go and talk to some of his villain cronies. Spider-Man's going to see what he can do during the day. And it has more of the stuff where that you kind of like about Miles, where he's dealing with the fact that he has to try and escape out of school and he can't, and one of the teachers catches him. We have that.
What's funny is that's probably by far my least favourite point of this issue.
Really? That bothered you?
It didn't bother me. I just wasn't really into it. Whereas all the stuff with Rhino, I think, is really good. The rest of it, I was like, I could take it or leave it.
How did you feel about the stuff with Genki? Because you've not really read much of Miles before.
Yeah, I didn't really get much of an impression of Genki's personality, really. He's only there for a couple of pages. I mean, I didn't feel like I had much to go by. I don't dislike him, but he didn't stand out.
No, I mean, I like Genki a lot, but I've read, obviously, a lot of stuff with Miles and Genki, so...
Yeah.
So that was just nice for him to be more of a part of the book. And you know, he rushes over to see Barbara, and she's distraught because her cousin's missing. And it's like, okay, right, he's vowing to fix this somehow. But Genki does some tracing on the web and finds out that it traces the suits to a location, basically a source, where they were purchased from. So Miles and Rhino go there, storm in, and Tombstone turns out to be the villain here. And when they find
he can kind of tell that Miles is there when he's invisible, right?
That's true, yeah, because Rhino's going to go in. He's like, no, I'll go in for the recon because I can go invisible.
and you're a pretty big dude.
You're a 9 foot tall.
Not exactly
Rhino.
quiet.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he can tell that Miles is there, and fighting ensues. So Rhino comes bashing in. We have a bit of a fight. They find a bunch of kids, but not the two they're looking for. So they save a bunch, but not all. And the cliffhanger of the issue is that Captain America shows up and is like, "You're not going to do this alone, kid." And it kind of makes sense that at least one Avenger ends up finding out about this, and because it's a pretty big deal. Kids are being kidnapped and used as super villains' weapons.
Yeah,
it makes sense that an authority figure that's not a 15-year-old kid would be in the action.
It would, yeah.
So Captain America is going to be in the next issue, working. Will he have a problem with Rhino being involved? I don't know. I
would suspect not, given that, sure, he's a villain in the past, but he's not doing anything wrong here. True. He's trying to do the right thing in saving a kid. If Captain America has a problem with this, then clearly I have misunderstood Captain America.
I like the idea that Rhino might become kind of an ally in this run. Like, if this is setting up the idea that they've got like a connection.
I kind of like the idea of him still being a villain for Peter, but not for Miles.
Yeah, like, I don't think he's going to turn out like a goody-goody, but I feel like sometimes Miles could go to him for intel, and like Rhino will offer up because they like each other a little bit.
Yeah.
I like the idea of setting up that he's got some villain contacts, that, Rhino's not the worst guy, he's not necessarily, doing really heinous shit, but, he's an informant, essentially.
Is it any different from when Peter goes and spends time with Black Cat?
Sure, yeah. Less sexy innuendo, but sure.
I meant in concept of, hey, she's not the best person.
Yes. But But I like that idea. I like the idea of males having that in Rhino.
Yeah.
So I'm cool. I like the art again. Art was just as good as it was first issue.
For the most part, I agree. I actually had some problems towards the end.
Okay.
It's the way the light reflects on his suit. There was a panel, it's the second to last page, the bottom middle panel. The way that the light kind of reflects where his eye normally is. So, but his eye is there as well. It really confused me. It took me a second to decipher what was going on in his face there. Completely took me out the moment because I felt like he had two eyes for a second, like at the same point.
I'm glad you specified that because I was about to say people typically have two eyes.
Yes, but he had two eyes, right next to each other on this side of the face. That made no sense, and I was like, "Wait, what's going on there?"
His head does look a lot like an alien in that panel. That's fair.
Yeah. There's just a few panels like that throughout that were just bugging me, but mostly I like it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the art's typically pretty good. I think his suit looks good, generally speaking. Rhino looks very good. I'm digging this book. I'm thinking Ahmed was a good choice for this, and it makes me excited as well for his Miss Marvel in a couple of months.
Sure.
Kamala Khan. So no, this was good, and I thought it was better than issue 1 because kind of like what we were just saying with the other issue 1s. There is that they have this issue 1 problem of having to set things up. This didn't have that. This was the issue 2 where it had all the setup already and could just do the story.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was good. So, what are you giving it?
I'm gonna give it a 7 because even though I wasn't as keen on the Miles stuff, I did really like all the stuff with Rhino like a lot. Yeah. So that pulls it up.
I'll give it an 8. I like the male stuff more than you do. Plus, I agree with everything else. So, no, really good. That'll take us on to X-23 issue 8. This is Mariko Tamaki writing, Diego Olortegui on art. I gave it my best.
Yeah.
My best. So last issue, they're getting attacked. They have this new clone of themselves that's like a robot. So it's like a half cyborg kind of clone, and Gabby was arguing that they should try and help her because she's like them, but it's like they get attacked at the end of the issue, and so the first half of this issue 8, is the action scene of them dealing with the people coming in, and
it's definitely the most delightful action sequence you'll read.
Oh, sure.
At least this week.
No question.
Maybe all month.
Gabby charging in and just basically taking out everyone else, because there's gunfire. That means me because I don't feel pain. She's like running out.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that thing when there's all the shooting people. Give me 2 minutes.
I love that that's her version of Wolverine's. I'm the best at what I do, and what I do isn't very nice. She's like, I'm going to do that thing when all the people are shooting.
Yeah. I just laugh when she dives in, knee to his head, and she's like, "Got your face."
Yeah. And the art's pretty good. It's not as good as the first arc still, because the first arc had was it Cabal in the first arc?
I think it was, yeah.
But it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I appreciate is that it does nail Gabby's face a lot, and Gabby, grinning like a madman.
I think I do occasionally have some problems with the coloring. Some panels seem a lot flatter than others for no real reason. Like if the page after the 2-page spread of Gabby doing the action.
The panel of her winking and saying "tada" on top of all the bodies is glorious.
It is. Yeah. But then if you look slightly to the right, that panel where she's saying "nice backpack," it feels really flat in comparison, and I don't quite know why.
Yeah, a little bit less consistent. I feel like, because I love the art in the first arc. This art is pretty solid, but does definitely have a few rougher edges here or there. The occasional face is just a little bit off. Like you say, some things are a little bit flat here or there.
Yeah. Overall, pretty good, though.
Yeah. So you got Beast in the helicopter, and then that's where they're running to. And all the interaction between Gabby and Laura is why I love these characters so much. And like their banter during the fight is just great.
Yeah, it is.
And I feel like with those characters, because I think you can often complain in comics that characters like talk too much while they're fighting, because if you actually imagine them doing that, it's like, no, you don't have time to talk when you're in the middle of a fight. I feel like these characters is far more justifiable because they can't technically get that hurt. So they don't care. There's no danger for them in the same way.
Also, most kids have that feeling of invincibility and will do stupid shit anyway.
Yeah, but
you give them literal invincibility. Yeah, they're going to do real stupid shit.
Do you know what show used that technique a lot?
What?
where they take the metaphor or make it literal?
No, I don't. No show has ever done that ever.
It's called the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Shit television show.
So, so they're back at the Xavier Institute, or whatever they're calling it these days, and working on
whatever they're calling it these days. It is the Xavier Institute.
So, yes, bad guys, specifically the bad guy who made Gabby in the first place. What's his face? Chandler.
Oh, I don't know.
Dr. Chandler. He is making these new clones, and the idea is that because they're just like autonomous robots, they're not like, they don't have the capacity to be like Laura and Gabby. That's like that's the margin of error getting removed, basically. So we're getting some backstory there, and basically Gabby's still convinced that she wants to help this clone, and Laura's like, hey, we don't know exactly what it is. It's still a machine. Let's not do anything. This, I think Beast tells them, go have a night's rest. We won't know anything until the next day. So they go to bed, and Gabby's like, I'm going to get a snack, and she goes and gets a plate of cookies, and then the little deviant sneaks downstairs to the lab and has cookies with the with the robot, who's just still asleep, by the way. It's not that the robot's eating them. She's just lying on the table.
Yeah, but it feels like it's just conveniently recording all this information because Gabby's just talking and talking and talking.
Yeah, Gabby's talking a lot. Yeah, talking about Chandler and stuff. And then you see the eyes light up on the clone, which is where we get our cliffhanger. But Gabby's explaining far too much.
Yeah, I would say as a cliffhanger, kind of mediocre.
I feel like what I was expecting to happen is that it was going to grab her neck or something like that. The idea that Gabby thinks this is someone they can help, but it's really just a killer robot. Yeah,
I think just showing us waking up isn't that interesting as a cliffhanger. At least not to me, because I mean, it's going to wake up. The interesting thing is what does it, what's the reaction? That's the cliffhanger, is what does it do immediately, right?
Sure.
Or at least to me, anyway.
Yeah, it was a good issue though. Like the fight was great. The art in the fight in particular was really good for the most part. And then you had all the back and forth with the characters. It was delightful. Delightful is the word I typically use when I'm talking about Gabby and Laura, but
yeah,
that stood true here. And then added in this idea that there's new like clones that don't have the humanity of them, which feels especially cruel. Even though it makes it easier for them to just slash at them with their blades, because they don't have to care in the same way that they would if it was real people, and in that sense. But it's cruel in the sense that this is what they wanted in the first place, so this is what like they wanted Gabby and Laura to be. So there's a cruel element to that in the story.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm looking to see what they do with that. So what are you giving it?
I'm gonna give it an 8 because even despite some little art criticisms, that fight was delightful and it pulls it up.
Yeah, 8.5. I like this a lot. So. X-23 is typically one of the most anticipated books I've got when it's out.
I get it.
So
it's for me, it's one of those books I always kind of forget about. I don't really think about it. Even this week I left it to one of my last Marvel books, and then I read it and it's like, no, this is great. What am I doing?
Yeah, you're full. So that'll take us on to Domino. Issue 10 came out this week. Gail Simone's writing this, of course, but you've not talked about this before, so you're basically just summing up your thoughts on the series as a whole. Yeah,
I'm not even going to really talk about plot that much because it kind of feels redundant. The book was delightful. It was a real surprise for me. I mean, I'm not entirely sure why they market it as an ongoing when it was... Frankly, I don't think Domino was ever going to sustain an ongoing, and I think that I mean, this must have started not too long after Deadpool 2, right? So I guess maybe they were banking on some popularity from that.
If it's been monthly, it may have even been...
Yeah, but I don't know if it was monthly the whole time.
Yeah, but even if it was only double one month like they often do, like that would put it around Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
Because Deadpool 2 was May, so...
It probably launched around Deadpool 2 then, and hoping that it was going to get an extra push.
Yeah, that's 8 months, so you get 10 issues. That's just...
That seems realistic. Yeah. But I tried it mainly because it was Gail Simone, right? Even though I enjoyed Domino in the Deadpool movie, she was one of the best parts. It's not enough to make me go, I'll read a Domino book, right? But Gail Simone's name is enough to make me read a Domino book, and I'm glad I did. It actually, apart from a couple of issues in the middle, I would say it's mostly not just a Domino book. It's kind of her and her friends, Outlaw and Diamondback. They kind of form a little posse, as they put it, and they kind of some stuff is them having a bit of an adventure, being hired as mercenaries to do some stuff like that. The banter is absolutely top form though, and that's where a lot of the enjoyment comes from, is that that just top quality banter, and there's a surprising amount of heart with it as well though. Domino it's essentially over the 10 issues the story of her learning to be a hero, of like, okay, no, let's not just do things for selfish reasons because I'm being paid. God damn it, you were quiet all that time and then you just smacked that zip on a wooden floor.
Do you want to know why that wasn't quiet? Because I missed the bed. It was meant to be the bed, which would have been completely silent.
I don't understand why you didn't just mute your mic for 10 seconds.
Because the challenge of pulling it off is what drives me.
Yeah.
You're talking about Domino.
Failed. I was. It's got a bit hard. The point of the story overall is kind of her being a hero, and learning that okay, we don't have to do things just because we're paid, and that sometimes we should probably do the right thing. And in that sense, it really works as a nice, tight little story. It's very enjoyable, well worth checking out. I know it's spinning off into a new. It is definitely a mini. The next one.
It's a mini, yeah. The next one.
Can't remember the exact title of it now, but it's Gail Simone again, so I'll be there, and I'll cover that one, monthly or whatever schedule it's coming.
I actually read issue 1 of this back when it came out, and I thought it was fine. I just never felt motivated to keep going with it.
It grew on me more. I liked issue 1 quite a bit, but it grew on me even more as this one. I think there was a lull around 5 or 6. I can't remember the exact point.
It's that issue 1 setup stuff probably that dampened me. Had it started now, I probably would have given it a few issues to win me over. But I
mean, this will make a nice tight 2 trades. Probably worth checking out if you're into, especially if you're into Gail Simone's banter more than anything.
That'll take us on to Star Wars issue 59. Kieron Gillen and Angel Unzueta on the art.
Sure. Yeah, that's probably how I'd say that.
So, I mean, I have nothing to add to this. You knock yourself out.
Yeah, that's fine. Obviously though, this is part 4 of whatever arc we're on now. Finally, it's a different artist from the rest of the run before this. For a long time, going back to all of Gillen's run up till this arc, and a large chunk of Aaron's run was La Rocca, and it was kind of horrible. And it got worse as it went. So it was so refreshing to have a new artist. I will say, unfortunately, this issue, the first page is maybe some of the worst art that this artist's done on the arc so far. A couple of weird faces. But it kind of gets past that as the issue goes on. It doesn't stick on that. But it was unfortunate for it to be the first page, and even the very first panel like that probably doesn't help. But this arc is basically they were on the run, just the main gang, and they had to abandon ship and go down onto this planet that turned out to be kind of like a mini paradise. But they are stuck there now. There is a community of people there that have been very hospitable, giving them all sorts of stuff. A bit of a rough society. Like Han gets into a duel, and one of these, like the smallest of a bit of offense in a bar is like, right, duel, let's do this. So he gets into that. I mean, he puts his gun on stun because he's not a total dickbag, but that's kind of the sort of place they're living in at the moment. There's a friend, this woman that they're staying with, the girl that Luke's befriended quite a lot, and then her father, who is the leader of the community. Those are the 2 main characters that are outside of our group. Chewie's not with them at this point. He's still on the ship, I believe, if I remember right, or he was on the one of the other ships, because after the last arc they had to scatter the fleet basically. But this issue, it's about how Luke has put he's built a transmitter and is trying to get a message back to Sana to come and pick them back up, and but Leia's also got her own plan and she's trying to do that, and they didn't trust each other, and it kind of all goes a little bit wrong. And then at the end of the issue, the Empire shows up. A ship comes down. Luke feels guilty thinking that it's his transmitter that's called them there. Turns out it's not. They were blocking the signal anyway, so it wasn't getting out. Because exactly this reason. They don't want the Empire coming and ruining their little paradise as they see it. But the people who are keeping them there treat the Empire in a very similar way. They're like, no, you're welcome to be guests here, but you play by our rules. And so it's actually Scar Squadron who showed up, who you won't be familiar with. It's a bunch of stormtroopers from Aaron's run, the leader of which has a lightsaber. They're kind of like a bit of a rough and ready gang. There's only like 5 of them maybe. And they got a bit of personality. They had a full arc back in the 30s, I want to say, for the issues. Obviously, like the main guy, he's not like incredibly well trained with the lightsaber, but enough to get by is kind of his thing. And basically, they want to just kill Luke and Leia and just like, right, be done with it. But the hosts will not let them. They're like, no. If you're here, you play by our rules. You have a duel. Winner takes all. So it ends with Luke versus the leader of Scar Squadron, with the lightsabers out, about to have the duel, which is where we're going to start next issue, which I'm looking forward to, because this is interesting, because Scar Squadron, he's shown to have been competent enough, and obviously this is Luke before any training, really, with Yoda, so he's still pretty rough with the lightsaber. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So it's a really solid issue. It's a great example of continuing the arc of this here. So I'll give it an 8.
Viewers of the YouTube version of this show might have noticed that I took that time to color correct my camera.
Yeah.
Because I noticed it was still kind of washed out and looking kind of colourless. But cool. Well, we're not done yet with this section, folks. Next up, Star Wars: Age of Republic, Jango Fett issue 1. Jody Hauser writing, Luke Ross on art. Take it away.
Yeah, this issue is actually really quite good. It's not just about Jango. It's obviously set in this time period, but it's equally as much about Boba Fett as it is about Jango, and it's more the idea of Jango training Boba is what it is. Is him taking on this kind of shitty mission that is way below his pay grade. That he doesn't need to be doing. He's teaming up with a bunch of other low-ranking bounty hunters, and they're all kind of going, "What the hell's Jango Fett doing taking this job with us?" But the idea is he wants to start with an easier mission for Boba, and be like, "Hey, look, just because you've got my name doesn't mean you deserve to take all the great jobs. You've got to start at the bottom like everyone else and earn your own reputation." It kind of comes down to the other little alien bounty hunters underestimating the kid. He does get caught off guard, but then kind of rescues it. So Django's kind of like, well, I mean, yeah, you got improvement to be had, but ultimately you made some interesting calls, because there's 3 bounty hunters that they're against at the end there. 2 of them are the ones that have been plotting this betrayal and trying to. Basically, they're like, "Hey, Jango, give us all the money for this, or we'll kill your kid." So there's 2 of them plotting it, and there's 1 at the end, and it's like, right, well, Boba, it was an attack on you, so it's your choice what you want to do. Do you want to kill him or do you want to let him go? And he ultimately he chooses to let him go, and it ends with Jango asking why, and he basically goes, well, a couple of reasons. He didn't really attack me, so I mean, maybe it wasn't fair to kill him, but also he didn't stop them, so but the main reason is like, no, well, he lived now to tell the tale and go and tell other people that I'm not to be messed with, the idea of building his reputation, which kind of I'm hoping will tie in nicely to when we get to the Age of Republic and get the inevitable Boba Fett issue, because I can see that building on that really nicely, potentially. The only other stuff in this issue is we actually see a bit of Jango's past. You know, when he is hired by Dooku, stuff that we'd heard about, but nothing really important. Like a little bits just to fill it out. Those bits are fine, but the stuff with Boba's actually really good. Art's pretty solid too. Kind of really good use of shadows. I'm into it. This is another 8. Yeah, go with that.
Cool. You like Star Wars? What a shock.
Hey, I don't like all the Star Wars issues. I mean, I have given plenty of negative Star Wars issues shit. It just hasn't happened to have been on this show yet.
I was just dealing with a problematic. Although I like problematic as a word. That sounds quite good. I'm going to use that.
Keep it going, yeah.
Problematic. Oh. Cool. The hell that was a Star Wars section has ended, which takes us on to the non-Marvel books and in general, which will take us firstly to Gunning for Hits issue 1, which is an image book written by Jeff Rougvie and art by Moritat. So this is as it claims, a music thriller. What it's really about is a music agent.
A&R guy.
A&R guy, there you go. Connor should study music. He'll know all this terminology better than I do.
Yeah. I will. There's a section in this book where it kind of gives you a lesson.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I literally had this lesson.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because that might be the worst part of the issue, is because there's a point in the story where he says, like, pause this, and the art completely changes as he does all this lesson stuff, right? And I thought it was fine when I first turned the page. I was like, oh, this is fun. This is a fun idea to pause for a page to do this.
And then it goes on for like 6 pages.
And the art, it was a complete white background. It's just all these really simple little drawings. It felt really weird. It felt like a really weird. I don't want to say it was like intentionally like to cut time or was lazy or whatever. I don't necessarily think that. I think they just thought this was a good idea, but it felt weird at 6 or 7 pages in the middle of the comic.
It's 7 pages, but I feel like maybe I'm wrong here. The issue feels slightly longer because I didn't feel like that I was missing a lot of story around this. If you take this out, I don't feel like it's particularly short.
No, I think that's fair. But it still felt weird. By the time I was halfway through that section, I was like, "Oh my god, what are we doing here?"
No, I agree. It's undoubtedly the worst part of the book. Like there's literally a point where they're going, "Well, you know, we can sell the store sell it for this much. The artist gets this much. We, all the cut." And I'm like, I had this as a lecture like 6 years ago. Why am I reading it in a comic now?
Yeah, probably too much detail, because it's one of those things where, because you've distilled it down to so much, by the time I got to the end, I don't think I kind of remembered everything that he's told me in the last 6 pages. It was too much to take in, to understand and just process all completely, I think.
I get that. It's a shame, though, because I really quite like the rest of it.
Well, because presumably, though, when you get this as a lecture, it was like an hour-long lecture, really.
Yes.
Like delving into it and kind of explaining the intricacies of everything and,
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. I thought it was okay. I didn't love it. The whole concept of this issue is that he's trying to sign this new act, this band, this guy in particular, and the guy's girlfriend, who's also his manager, is basically negotiating for what they want in the record deal, and he's slyly kind of agreeing to everything she says, but then explains how they kind of get around all of this and how they don't really get any of what they want, or if they do, it comes out of their own pocket, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I like the point where it kind of revealed that no, this band could have got pretty much anything from any record label, and he's trying to going, oh sure, I'll give you these things, and kind of getting the best for him.
Yeah. And there's one implication in that problematic bit in the middle that implies that he used to be in some kind of dangerous line of work, and then obviously at the end of the book is kind of revealing what not an extensive detail, but because at one point the whole idea is that the girlfriend is trying to make a power play after a power play, like give us this, give us that, and he agrees to everything, although in his narration he's like slyly saying why that this is actually, like, she thinks she's getting a lot here but she's not, like, I'm wanting this.
Yeah, but
ultimately she says okay, and you have to also suck his dick. Like, that's basically what she gets to, and
just because she can,
just to prove that this is how much you need us, and that you'll be beholden to us forever because you'll never want anyone to find out that you've done this.
Yeah.
And he goes to a room with them. This is because that's where he pauses it, is when she asks that. And then he explains everything. Then it goes back to the real thing, and they go to a room. He even gets down on his knees, but then he pulls out 2 guns and makes it very clear that he used to kill people for a living. And
yeah,
because he says before, what's about to happen never leaves this room, and they think he's talking about, you know, going down on the guy. What he actually means is, no, I'm about to pull guns on you and threaten to kill you brutally. So
yeah.
it was okay. Like it has a unique voice. I don't think I've got any interest in reading more of this. I don't think it's bad, but
No, that's fair. I think I'd be interested in reading it as a trade.
Mm.
I will say, as you know, this is someone's their first comic, right?
Okay.
As a writer, is I don't know if you read the back matter.
No, I did not.
I skimmed it. It's kind of about the, you know, his history and how he got to how he got into comics, how he got into being a music producer, and you know, how that's got to where he is now.
Mm.
When I say got into comics, I mean just, you know, as a fan. This is, you know, the first time he's written and published a comic. So for some debut work, I don't think it's that bad.
Yeah, no, it's decent enough written. Maybe a little heavy in dialogue or the narration boxes at times.
Yeah, and that middle section does drag it down, unfortunately.
It does.
But I'm assuming that's just a this issue thing. I can't imagine that's going to carry forward every issue.
Yeah, and that's not bad. Moritat's art's pretty good. Again,
yeah, it's got a lot of mood, hasn't it?
Outside of that problematic section in the middle, which is intentionally meant to be really simplistic and kind of is. Do you know what it's meant to be? It's meant to be that the child's book to explain things. It's kind of like in Fallout, like when you get a perk, you get the little cartoon.
Yeah, it is exactly that. So the art for what it's meant to be doing is very good. It's just inherently a lot less engaging than the rest of the book.
Yeah, it should have been no more than 2 pages.
I agree.
The fact that went on for 7 pages is absolute madness.
Yeah.
So I don't really want to read any more of it. It's okay. It's fine. Like, I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's for me though.
That's fair. I think it's not something that I want to read monthly, unfortunately. I don't think there's just quite enough there.
Mm.
But I would be interested in revisiting it later down the line.
Yeah, what are you giving it?
Maybe like a 6.
Yeah, I agree. 6.
Which is interesting because a 6 isn't a bad score, obviously. And in the middle of a run, if I give an issue a 6, there's no doubt I'm coming back. But when it's a first issue, you've got to be getting at least a 7 for me to be like, okay, I want to read more.
Yeah, I think the start of the issue needed more of a hook as well. The opening page is just like a page full of narration boxes, and I feel like.
Do you know what one of the best parts of writing for me was, in terms of just something that's I never really see in the way it's written in the language, was the very first panel. You know, so it's the establishing, you know, just the time and date, but the way there's a hair after 3 a.m. I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen that phrase used in a comic before.
Yeah,
and I thought that, you know, as your first line, that was like, okay. This is slightly different. This is unique. I do think it was overdone on that first page, unfortunately. But I like that first touch.
All right. We'll move on then to, I imagine, one of the main events Connor had this week, which was Die number 2.
Oh yeah, first thing I read.
Kieron Gillen, right? Which is funny because it's the very last thing I read.
Is that because you put it off, or just?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't anything in particular reason. It was just.
Yeah, because you obviously quite like the first issue.
Yeah. I mean, you say first thing you read, do you mean before the DC books as well?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. Because I didn't read anything for this show outside of Spider-Man before Saturday, because that's when we do the DC show. So all the DC books get priority because we're recording that on the Saturday.
I went to the comics show I went Thursday, because I was busy Wednesday. I went Thursday. I got home. I sat down and read this before I did literally anything else.
Expect a high rating from Connor, given that devotion.
Hey! Just because that was what I did based on expectation from the first issue does not necessarily mean that this delivered.
Oh, so you think it was bad?
No, it delivered. I'm just saying that there was no implication that it was necessarily lived up.
You're a caricature of yourself. That's all I'm saying.
I know.
The ginger degrader, as someone called you in the last live stream. I like that. So they're in the game now, and there's a nice. I like the roll call page at the start just to kind of remind me who everyone was. That was handy.
Yeah, I really like the touch with the dice on the side, all being the unfolded versions.
Sure,
You know, if
yeah.
you're going to make a paper cutout and fold it
Yeah,
together,
yeah.
it's in that shape. I thought that was a little interesting touch.
Yeah. So, I mean, this kind of establishes some key things about the world in the game. It establishes kind of some of the history that they spent a lot of the time in this. Was it Agraria? I want to say something like that.
Might be. I'm not got the names memorized yet.
They spent a lot of time there. They actually confirmed
Angria.
Angria. There you go. Do you know what it was? Because there was a character called Angela, and every time he said Angria, I had to like double look at it just to make sure it was Angela or Angria. So maybe that's a mild complaint that he should have picked a better name for the for the location, or the character. But we find out that Saul, the one who was left behind, actually wasn't intentionally left behind. He tried to leave with them, and even how the little sister lost her arm was because the bad guy, the Grandmaster, grabbed him when they were trying to leave
and held him back.
And that ripped off her arm in the process as well. So that was a neat thing, and also it shows us that he's seemingly killed the Grandmaster, become the Grandmaster himself, and
kind of lost himself and got a bit crazy.
And one of the things they bring up is that, you know, he like to get home they all had to want to leave. That was how it worked. Is they all had to want to leave. So he doesn't seem like he wants to go back now. So they could be stuck here.
They could be stuck. Yeah,
potentially. So
there's a lot of little world building touch in this. Like the Gias, the spell that meant they couldn't say anything. Was actually something that he did to them. They did to themselves. It wasn't like something inflicted upon them. It wasn't some rules from the game. It was something that they did to protect themselves. Not protect themselves, but to protect everyone else from this world.
So they wouldn't go there, yeah. So no one would try and find them or whatever. So that was interesting. They set up that there's these, generic orcs that are kind of more like sorceress-looking things, but they're orcs.
Yeah.
Because there's the princess, the elf princess, is based on the girl they had a crush on in school, but the fool charges in and like cuts off her head or whatever.
I love the idea that they go, as long as he acts like a fool, he's safe because that's the rules, right? As long as he's just everyone else can be screwed. But him there, he'll just be dancing around. Nothing will hit him. He'll be fine.
Yeah, they set up some other stuff. Set up the Neo, the cyberpunk one, the little sister. She like needs like gems or whatever to to trigger her powers once per day. It's almost like a drug. Like she needs like a daily fix to make her powers work.
He does because he talks about how I don't get why people don't like rogues. They're thieves. But kind of so is everyone else in the game. But Neos, they're addicts, and that's a problem because you can't trust that.
And then you also have the Grim Knight or whatever his name is.
Grief Knight.
The Grief Knight. There you go. Still getting a handle on all the names. There's like 6 characters.
Yeah. I remember that because did you read the back matter, the essay in the back? Right, it's fascinating. But there's the idea that so the Grief Knight here, as you get, he has to channel his sorrow right into his power. And there's 8 emotions, so there's like a joy knight, and so on, that all work in various ways. I'm looking forward to seeing some more of that stuff.
And what's interesting, our main character has to trigger his pain to make it work.
Yeah.
And he hates him for it because he's got a tear in his eye. He's like, I hate you for this. But
that panel where the tear drips down onto the sword and then it just lights up is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really, really good stuff. I also like Neo's visor when she like triggers a power.
I love how out of place in this world it is, but it's so cool.
Well, she's a cyberpunk character, so she's instantly the best one. I mean, that's just obvious.
Sure.
Right, that's just obvious. So these big visor. I like a big visor, big thick mask.
To an unreasonable degree.
So, no, I really like that, and the conclusion of this book is that they go on a journey. They have to quest. They have to find, whatever, find where the Grandmaster is and try and solve the problem. And they're like, okay, we can go in like one of like 4 directions, and one is through this war torn like section of the world that they never went into, even as teenagers. Even though they had they were naive and confident, they still never went in there. But ultimately, they decide not to go the other way because that's the way that people know them. And the final line of the book is that, screw our past, no, we're going into the war-torn section.
Yeah, because So Ash, the dictator, his power is, the Gias, the speech compels them, and they run into a character who has been searching for them because someone he had a bit of a relationship with.
Yeah, someone who's in love with him specifically. This soldier or knight or whatever is in love with her.
And when before he left, he was like, the knight was like, hey, compel me that I'll find you, because I will, and he has been, and even though he's dead, he's rotting away. There's maggots coming out of his eyes. He's still walking until he gets there.
Yeah, and it's the mage type character, who speaks to the demon. She actually has to hey, okay, I'll owe you a favor, demon, if you just use some magic to let him see so that he can end. And it's this really horrific scene of the guy melting once he sees her finally. And it's just this depressing ending, and that's when the main character's like, nah, screw our past. We're going to the dangerous.
We don't want to see anyone we used to know. We don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, we're going to the dangerous world, which obviously sets up for combat. Obviously, the art's fantastic again. I think the two things we were talking about earlier, the when the visor and the rest of the Neo suit comes on, I love that page. I love the tier, the Grief Knight suiting up, powering up.
There's so many pages. The full page where they go, which way are we going to go, and there's all the kind of like the crossroads of the different directions.
Yeah.
There's one of the pages in the battle where you've got the Grief Knight with the sword at the front and the big bear god demon at the back. Is just incredible, especially with the way the colors are playing it.
There's an interesting discussion at one point as well about let's play this as if this is real and we're still our real selves and not characters in a game, because meaning basically let's not just kill innocent people, like we don't just pillage and do bad things because it's a game. And I'm wondering if that's something they learned the hard way the first time, is they treated it like a game at first and maybe did some bad things.
Maybe, which is maybe why they don't want to go and revisit the past.
But yeah, very good reason to, I imagine. So, and obviously the idea that the villain, the Saul, the original kid who stayed behind, the fact that he's grown up here, so he is crazy. Like, he's absolutely nuts.
He's kind of cracked, yeah.
Yeah. And he's never had a chance to mature because he's been here since he was he's not been in the world. He's not had a chance to learn or grow in any way other than just this harsh, violent world that he's in.
Oh yeah.
So no, still liking it, still digging it.
Yeah. I just want to say I did read the back matter essay. This one is about why each character got which dice, and kind of just the idea of what the classes are and how they are takes on the traditional. So the idea the Grief Knight is his take on the paladin, the Godbinder is his take on a cleric, and just how those worked and why they chose those dice. The in-depth reasoning of what the die means culturally. Like the D20 is the D&D dice, right? So that's what that got.
You use all of them, but D20 is the main one.
Yeah, that's his point in this essay, is that when people think D&D, not necessarily people who play it, but if anyone thinks D&D, they're thinking D20. Or alternatively, if they're thinking of a D20, they probably only know it in context of D&D.
Yeah, D20 is the main one you roll for most of the decisions. The other ones tend to come out for things like damage for certain weapons and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas the fool being given the D6, the standard die, is just because, he's the basic one, right? So it was a really in-depth essay on that stuff. So maybe like 3 pages long, but it's well worth reading. It's really interesting.
I mean, it's worth mentioning, before we started, I counted the list of we had 18 comics. I had more comics to read. Well, I didn't, because it was the last one. But I read this right before we came to record, so it was time to stop and record.
Yeah. I would recommend going back and reading it. I think you, in particular, would find it quite fascinating. It's kind of like the history of stuff it does, because Gillen has this a background in journalism, games journalism specifically. So he has a great flow for these short essay style articles that you'd get on the internet now.
But yeah, what are you giving it though? What are you rating it?
It's a 9 from me.
8.5. It's really good.
You were tempted. Tempted,
but not quite there. Not
okay.
quite there. But yeah, so that takes us on to one that kind of only Connor's doing, and that is Blackbird issue 4. I read the first 2 and made the call not to finish catching up.
Okay.
The art's pretty good. Jen Bartel's art's really good because it's Sam Humphrey's writing, Jen Bartel in art, which has been true of all the issues. I'm just not really feeling the world of the story. Is ultimately what it is. It's this girl who saw like a magical thing when she was young during an earthquake, and then as an adult, her life's kind of shitty. She's a bit of an addict. She takes pills. Her mother died when she was young, and that's kind of set a schism in her family. And her and her sister, she lives with her sister, so they're close, but they also have this very strenuous relationship. End of issue 1, her sister gets kidnapped by a magical being, and that set her off. And then issue 2, I mean, they're both okay issues. I didn't have like any sort of real critiques about them in a big way.
Just you just weren't that into it.
I just wasn't that into it. Yeah, I was like, because I felt that way after issue 1. I thought I'll read one more, see how I feel, and then I chose to read the first 3 issues of Outer Darkness instead of catching up because I wanted to try that. So I'll talk about that next. But Blackbird issue 4.
Yeah, I'm just I think briefly issue 3. She if I'm recalling the specifics here, is where she kind of visits the Paragon world. It's that magic world where it's kind of all around the city. It's still there. It's just most people don't see it. It's on a slightly different plane of existence.
Different frequency.
Yeah. It kind of sets up a bit about that world. There's all these different families. Think like crime family style.
Maronis, the Falcones.
Yeah. But they all have like gemstones that they're based around. One's like you would get like a diamond one, for example, right? And so on, and they use, but not just in name. Those gemstones actually give them power, and it's the source of their magic, in various ways. But to go on to this issue, and the cliffhanger issue 3 was the Great Beast, which is that big blue kind of lion thing that stole the sister. That's actually her mother.
Okay.
Yeah. So most of this issue is the emotional fallout of her going, wait, you're meant to be dead. What the hell's going on here? And then the concept that her mother's actually not that interested in her. She's kidnapped she's taken her sister. She assumes because she's chosen that, oh no, I want the sister to come and spend time with me and learn this stuff, but she didn't. She tries to. They have a bit of a conversation, for about maybe half the issue, and at the end of it, she does the thing that you'll have seen the first issue, where she gets told to forget, which is something these beings can do. They're these paragons. They can tell someone to forget, and they will, except she didn't. That was the key part of that first issue. Is she was the only one that remembered.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it happens again. So her mother's going, forget me, and she just pretends again, like, yeah, okay, I forget, and obviously she doesn't. She has to go and check. So she goes and digs up the grave of her mother, and it's like, nope, there's nothing in there. This is kind of real. She starts popping the pills again, and the not dead cat shows back up. Did you get to that?
Yeah. The cat was alright. She was walking around with the cat in the bag, like all issue 2.
Yeah. The cat's just straight up talking to her now.
Yeah.
It's just going, hey, you probably shouldn't be doing this, because she wants to go crazy and go and force her mom to come and talk to her.
No doubt, the best part of the book is the talking cat. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I figured you'd like that. But she kind of goes and breaks into one of these Paragon places, and she's like, look, I'm here to claim my birthright. Go and get my mom right now. I want to talk to her. And she's kind of going and doing her own thing, and she's like, no, I'm one of the last lines that is, I'm done effing around, and she's just going off at it now and being like, no, I'm doing this. So it's a really interesting issue in terms of okay, it finally gave us the emotional connection to what was going on in here. So it grounded it a bit more, but it also expanded out the magical world quite a bit too. So really solid. Give it an 8.5. Probably my favorite issue of the book yet.
Oh, cool.
And the art's fantastic, because every issue's art is fantastic.
The colouring is very good, especially, I thought. I like all the blues and purples and It's got a good palette that it's working with.
It does. I don't know if she colours it herself. It's a different colorist, Triona Farrell, who deserves a shout out for sure.
Yeah, no, it's got a scheme. It's got like a style. It's picked a color palette. It's stuck to it.
Yeah, it's very clean art, and it pops out. It's very vibrant, but it's gorgeous.
So I could take over for a little bit now. Next book is Outer Darkness issue 3. But again, I've not talked about this before. I read what issues 1, 2, and 3 pretty much back to back for the purpose of wanting to catch up and check it out. John Layman writes this, who did Chu, and then you've got Afu Chan. I might be mispronouncing his name, but on the art. And this is a spaceship story. This is a crew in a spaceship, and they're off to try and save people. But there are weirder elements to it, and I think some of this is going to pique your interest. It's kind of like a space travel opera mixed with supernatural horror.
You bastard!
And here's the thing. So there's some stuff that it'll just throw out there in the first issue that it doesn't quite explain right away. But it's sort of obviously each issue so far has added something new to the mythology. By the end of issue 1, because issue 1 is basically something bad happened in the past where the captain that we follow. I'll get the roll. There's a nice roll call page up at the back of the issues. I'll get that up for my.
That's useful.
It's really useful. But the captain's on a mission that goes really bad. But he saves a bunch of people, but a couple of people. He makes a choice to get some people killed, but he thinks it was the right choice because it saved everyone else, right? But the higher ups don't see it that way. He's kind of blacklisted in terms of the community, but he's offered this job. He's captain of a ship, but the mission is to save someone in the Outer Darkness, which is like the far reaches of space that no one, it's like no go, like dangerous, like it's almost suicide mission. But he's not got anything else going, so he agrees, and so on. So he's a captain. This is a horizontal page. Captain Rig. So that's basically the story of the first issue. He makes the choice. We meet the first officer. He has one guy that comes with him, his advisor, Agwe. But so at one point someone casually mentions that they don't have one type of engine, they have a god engine. And they literally mean there's a god in the engine. I'm
interested.
You are interested, aren't you? There's a god in there, because even the opening thing where the mission goes wrong in issue 1 is like there's one of the crew members is an exorcist, one is like an oracle, what's happening is like people are like have been possessed and stuff's going wrong. It's like cosmic horror meets Star Trek. it's interesting, but so he goes to the engine and he's like, "Hey, dipshit god, I'm in charge here. I don't care if people used to worship people like you. Like, I'm in charge and you work for me. Do you got that right?" And basically what they do to fuel the machine, the engine, is they have to sacrifice people to it every day or every week. I don't know how often it is, but they sacrifice, because there's a war going on in the galaxy right now. So when they have like war criminals from the other side, they use them as fuel for the god engine.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, and the second and third issues kind of expand upon the more stuff in the world, where you have you have like a team of exorcists, you have a team of like actual soldiers, you have a team of, these are different parts of the ship, like different crews on the ship. You have the mathematicians who deal with.
How big is the ship?
It's fairly big. I mean, I say crew. There's maybe like half a dozen people in each thing.
Okay.
Maybe a bit more than that, but because the second issue was about the captain putting them into intentionally very dangerous space because it was near a star, and you'll love this. They go near a big blue sun that is possessed by, I want to say, a demon. But because of that, the closer the ship gets to it, like all these almost Lovecraftian, like crazy things start happening on the ship. But the captain intentionally does it because he wants to test the crew, and he doesn't like drills because there's a safety net, because it's not real. He wants to put them in real danger, so he insists on doing this. So they have to do it, and it's a good way of, because you meet the heads of the departments and you see how they all interact and how, like, okay, so some people get possessed, so the exorcist comes in and like starts doing exorcisms and shit.
I hate how much I like the sound of this book, because now I'm going to have to go and catch up. Like, I'm not reading enough.
It's only 3 issues, so it's not like a lot to catch up on. And then issue 3 basically introduced this idea that we can actually resurrect people if people are worth resurrecting. It costs a lot of money and resources, but if someone dies, they can actually, the exorcists and stuff can actually capture their souls while they're on their way like through the astral plane.
Is there a time limit on this?
I think so, yeah, because they seem to think in this issue that they've got a narrow chance of succeeding, but they do. And one of the people that they save is one of the characters who was going to be sacrificed in the first issue, but when the captain asked like what each of them had done, when he got to her, and it turned out that she wasn't a war criminal, she'd like disobeyed orders, he actually gives her a pardon and says, no, she's on my crew now, because she thinks for herself, and she questions things. I like that, something like that. And she actually dies, but he saves both of them, even though they're not insured, because that's the other thing, is you have to have insurance, but unless, like, you're necessary for the war effort, right, and you're worth it. And Agway's like, Home Command's probably going to give a shit for, resurrecting those two, because they weren't really, that important. If anything, they were kind of the least important members of the ship.
Yeah.
And he's like, nah, I wasn't going to let them die. Because the captain does kind of seem like a dick sometimes, but then he does things like this, and it's like, okay, there's a method to his madness. But he, they basically, it was a trap by the enemy. What's the alien race called? That's the other side of the war. We've not seen much of them yet, but there was a trap by the Drix. That's Dryx, the Drix, and they basically left a trap there from, because this ship was like 80 years old. This Earth ship, which was filled with this resource that was worth a lot. So they actually get all this resource, even though there was like it was basically like a ghost trap. It was all these like zombie versions of the enemy that popped up when they landed. And that's how the characters died. But yeah, so every issue is added to something in the mythology, and it's like, okay, so this is what we can do in the ship. This is what the different departments can do.
Yeah.
We're dealing with these really crazy horror concepts, but it's also just like we're on a mission in space, but you've got a captain, we've got a bridge. It's a very Star Trek looking bridge. So
cool. It's
interesting. Outer Darkness is pretty good. I will say I don't love the art. Like, it's a specific style that I don't necessarily love that much, but it's definitely doing what it wants to do. I can't really fault it in that sense.
I'm gonna have to actually look into it then, because that could be a make or break for me.
It's a very flat style for me, but you might like what it's doing. Just to wrap up issue 3 here. The other guy who died and was brought back. There's a running thing in the issue where he keeps saying that he's the most unlucky crew member on the ship, because it's like the 8th time he's died. But the therapist or the ship's advisor or whoever it is says, no, someone say you're lucky because you keep getting brought back, even though technically there's no reason why you should be brought back.
Yeah.
But the final page is him cutting like symbols into his chest. So he seems to be either worshipping something evil or
Having not read it, my assumption would be maybe he's died too many times and something's gone a bit wrong, and maybe something's piggybacked coming back.
It's interesting you say that, because one of the things they bring up after they wake them up, because they don't come back in the same bodies, they sort of reconstruct bodies in the lab.
Right, okay.
And put their souls back in. I just say that casually. They put their souls back in. Is they say that they always have to do therapy and get checkups afterwards from the exorcists and all that kind of thing, because sometimes there can be side effects from coming back. So that might be what's going on here, is that something's come with him.
I like that it's clear enough that even just hearing about it, I'm going, okay, I think I can see what that is.
Yeah. I'm into the story. Don't love the art, but I'm getting used to it though. It's kind of it's working for what it is. But I've liked the issues so far. I would say the only thing going against it right now is I don't know how likable the characters are yet, but that's something that can come in time. And the IDs are so good that's enough right now.
Yeah.
So, issue 3, I'd give a solid 8. It was good. So,
cool.
There you go. Which will take me on to William Gibson's Alien 3, issue 3. I talked about issues 1 and 2 last week. Johnny Christmas, both writing and art. Obviously based on the script by William Gibson, as the title would imply. So I'd say this one's still pretty slow at the first two, but it does kind of have that moment at the end. Like, this is the one where the last like 5 pages catapult it into like, okay, things are happening now.
Yeah.
The enemy, the corporation who Bishop, because one of the main things that happens in this is that Bishop, the android, is given back to the main group, but he's had his memory wiped. But the head honchos say he's going to now study the aliens here, and they fire the 2 scientists who were doing it. The ones who kind of reacted, but at the end of issue 2, when I said that they were like, wait, this entire station is the quarantine or whatever, and There's an accident early on where some eggs break out of the containers. They're mini-sized though because they're still growing, and nothing bad happens there necessarily in and of itself. But eventually, the alien from the Sulaco does come onto the ship. This is the first time we properly see him. There's a great. The final page actually is that you see the alien coming through like a cloud in the decontamination room, like someone showering in the decontamination. There's all these clouds, and you just see
sounds cool.
The shadow of the alien coming through. It's really cool. But the thing I really liked about this issue. Is that so you've got Bishop looking into the alien and investigating it. That's cool. But what I like is that you have Nuke being sent off to Earth, which gets her out of harm's way. And it's like, okay, I get why that's maybe what you don't want to turn the third act into try to save Newt again, because that's what Aliens, the second movie was. And Bishop, like Ripley's still in a coma, so Bishop has to send her, or not Bishop, sorry, Hicks has to send her off, and it's this really sweet moment where, like, he promises that he'll visit, and Ripley will visit, and they'll make sure and come and see her. And she has this nice moment at the end where she turns around and says affirmative and smiles at him, and it's a nice callback to the previous movie. And does what it does. But what I like is that the other scientists who have all been fired and like some of the others are basically having this little meeting, and they bring Hicks in on it, and they say to Hicks, "Hey, we didn't know if they bring you in this or not, but we're basically discussing how we have to sabotage what's going on because this alien can't be developed and be taken anywhere. Like typical thing. Corporations want to use it as a weapon, but anyone with a brain is like, no, this is too stupid and dangerous. Like this every time this happens, it goes out of control and people die."
Yeah,
unintentionally. So we have them kind of say, there's an alien specimen, they're working with it. At this point, none of them know there's an actual full-grown alien on the ship yet, on the station. That's happening elsewhere on the station. We're seeing it attack like soldiers and stuff. They don't know about that yet. But their plan is to try and just wipe out the research so that nothing can happen. And Hicks is like, hey, I know better than anyone in this room. These things are dangerous. I'm in. So this was exciting because it was the character. Because I feel like up until this point in the story, the characters from the last movie have felt like kind of small characters in the story, and it's been these new characters. This was the one where it kind of felt like, no, we're bringing him in because of his experience, and it's going to be relevant. I wonder how much Ripley was going to be involved in this movie, because so far she's just been, like, she had like one sort of outburst and then has been asleep since. So
interesting.
I'm expecting a big entrance for her when she does finally wake up. I wonder if this
halfway through.
I wonder if this script was written with the idea that maybe Sigourney Weaver didn't want to do a whole movie. Like, she wanted a limited role.
Could have been, yeah.
So they wrote around the idea that she was only going to be in, like, other than lying there asleep, was only going to be in, like, maybe the last, 20 minutes, 30 minutes of the movie or something like that. I don't know. But, yeah, the scientist bringing in Hicks was definitely the biggest plot beat that I've enjoyed so far.
Makes sense.
So, but yeah. And the art was consistent with the previous issues. I'd give us a 7.5. It was good.
Cool.
Good. Not amazing. But good. So issue 4 is out next month, so I'll talk about that then. And then last book of the week, another Aliens book. Aliens Dust to Dust, issue 4. Both story and art by Gabriel Hardman. He did the Green Lantern Earth 1 book last year, which we liked a lot, and I on that review said, this guy would be perfect for an Alien book.
And then they started a few months later. I've actually read the first 2 issues of this, but I think there was some delays that kind of meant I kind of lost.
I don't even know if it was delays, because I was looking back at when they came out, and like it was basically one issue every 3 months. Like, I don't know if that was a delay, if it was like intended to be kind of spread out.
Right. Okay. Well, maybe that is how it's worked out, but it felt like a delay when I was reading it, and I kind of I came back for the second issue, and then I didn't come back for the third, unfortunately. But I feel like I'll check it out when it's complete.
Alternatively, I read it all in one sitting, which I actually read very well that way.
Yeah.
4 issues back to back.
Is that the whole thing?
That's the whole thing, yeah. This is the last issue. So I'm basically just talking about the whole thing, but so it hits the ground running. Aliens are on this, it's just like Aliens the movie. They're on a different planet or a moon or whatever, but it's a terraforming station. There's like a planet with all these families, and the mother comes in with a face hugger on her face. It comes off, but obviously we're like, oh, she's probably got an alien in her.
It's a bit too late already. Yeah.
But she's trying to save her kid. She's trying to run with her kid out, and they're trying to get to this ship. There's some car chasing. They meet up with some other characters. And it's basically a race over the course of the first. It's a race to get to the shuttle, and the shuttle, things go bad because the alien acid like burns through the back of the thing, because it closes the door on it, so that the acid just like pours into it, and it's like, oh, we can't go into space. There's a hole.
Yeah.
There's a giant hole. and end up crashing. And it's like, okay, can we get to this other location? This the actual terraforming station area. Can we get to there? Is there a shuttle there? It looks like there is. There's, we can see it from a distance that the door for the shuttle's still shut, implying that nothing's left. So it becomes this thing, and I guess what the main thing this does that's different from previous Alien stories is that the mother does become an alien. That's the big cliffhanger at the end of 1 or 2. It's her chestbuster moment.
Yeah.
And it's basically the idea that the alien, which it's her because her arm gets ripped off quite early on, is that she might still kind of care about her son in some capacity. This alien that came out of her might still care. It seems to be kind of protecting him in some ways. Although there is parts towards the end where it still clearly goes after him as well, so it's not like it's completely... But there is maybe this instinct because it came from the mother. I was like, okay, this is an interesting thing to play with. We've never really done this, I don't think.
The idea that it imprinted something onto it.
Yeah. It's kind of this... It's kind of like the consistent alien. Cause there's other aliens that show up, but that's the consistent one that's always chasing them. It's almost like it's tracking his scent specifically, and that's how it's always finding them. So there's some traversal, there's climbing, there's going across bridges, and all sorts of things. And there's some other characters. There's like a bit of an asshole character who wants to protect him, who turns out to be an android, who gets ripped in half at one point, and then the kid can't carry him because he's too heavy, so he's like, cut off my head, just carry the head. And that's kind of a fun beat. And it's a neat moment at the end though, because there's one other character who's been kind of the nicest character to him. The kid gets to the shuttle, and she sort of stays back to kind of hold off the aliens. But the kid makes the choice himself to like fly the shuttle back down to get her. So it's kind of got a happy ending there, where he saves her and he saves the day, and it's kind of a nice little moment. Because they explain that the shuttle's designed so that anyone can fly it in emergency. It's mostly autopilot. You just have to just
hit the buttons,
grab the stick, and just aim it. It's basically all you have to do in this shuttle. So he comes back down for her, and it's kind of a sweet ending. And that's basically it. Obviously, the big thing is it's a solid enough little story. It's not too in depth, but the art's really good. I will say the one disappointing thing about the art though is that very little of it's on spaceships, which is the reason why I thought it was great for an Alien book. Is that he draws spaceships in space so well, and the way that light interacts with the ships in the darkness.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of that in this because it's mostly set on the planet and it's mostly other locations.
Minor bit of a frustration, yeah.
So it's annoying that the reason why I wanted him to do an Alien book isn't really in the Alien book, but hopefully
maybe he'll do a sequel.
I hope he does. I hope he does another one, sequel or otherwise. Just so that's just one that's set in a ship. That's what I want.
Yeah. Do Green Lantern Earth 1 Volume 2, and then come back to another Alien book.
I'm okay with that plan. So yeah, because the first issue of this was out in like April last year.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, which is why I didn't go back.
It was like April, July, October or something like that. I don't know. It was really spread out. It was
yeah.
But yeah, so that's Aliens Dust to Dust. Last issue. It's hard to separate it in my mind, but I'd probably give the whole thing like an 8. So I'll just
that'll do. Yeah,
it's an 8. There you go.
We'll just say it's ineligible in our
sure
stuff at the end.
I can maybe give it art, maybe.
Yeah, sure. You can give it art.
But yeah, that is issue. That's the books. That's the last book. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Which takes us on to the final section of the show, which is picking our favourite stuff of the week. Best panel / moment, best art, best cover, and of course top 5 books. So nice big selection to pick from this week, which might even make it harder. What is your panel / moment?
Oh, it's got to be from Die. It's got to be. I think the first time that the sword activates and he leaps into battle, where the tear drips down and it bursts into flame. I think that moment was just like, damn.
Yeah, I can see that. Cat, what are you doing? Yeah, I'm going to pick Die as well. I think I'm going to pick the visor going on. What can I say? I'm a sucker.
And you call me a caricature.
Hey, it was either that or something from X-23.
Yeah, I get it.
I picked a book that wasn't too caricaturous for me. Not that that's a
no,
word.
but you picked the one caricature moment out of it.
Shut up. So yeah, panel / moment. There you go. Best cover of the week.
Yeah.
I feel like I had a pick for this earlier and I forgot what it was.
I forgot to look at variants again, so I've got just the main covers in front of me.
That's fine. Marvel have so many variants though that it's honestly maybe a better.
Yeah, probably fairer.
restriction.
I've got one.
Oh, go on.
I'll go with the Star Wars 59 cover. It's Jamel Campbell, who I remember I think he did that Nightwing arc after the with the Humphreys. Was it
Okay, yeah.
Humphreys? I think that was him.
Yeah, that was Jamal Campbell. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of this classic Western, reaching for the fingers above the gun, about to draw with Han Solo.
I'll give a
It's cool.
I'll give a shout out to Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I like that cover a lot. Nice and colourful.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I think I'm going to give it to Alien 3 though, issue 3, because I've liked how simplistic those covers are, and I mentioned how in the last one that I was like, oh, this one will probably have the alien in it because they've been very good with not tricking us with the covers.
Yeah.
And it's a really nice set of covers as well, because the first one's just the egg, the second one's the face hugger,
Third one's the
third
alien.
one's the alien. Sorry, the second one was Bishop's body. Right,
okay.
No face hugger yet. Maybe that'll come up, but no, it's a really simplistic cover, but it's a really nice. Like the detail on the actual alien in the middle is really nice. So it looks very prestigious because it has so much empty space around it, though. It feels kind of like
Okay, yeah.
I like the overall feel of it. So Alien 3, best art of the week. Go on, just say die. Get it over with.
Well, no, because I don't know.
What's competing with it?
Blackbird.
Ah.
It's genuinely they are neck and neck.
I see it.
I think I'll give it to Blackbird. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's between Die and Aliens Dust to Dust, I think.
But I can understand Dust to Dust being up there. If I'd been reading it, that would be in contention.
You know what? This is maybe too diplomatic that it should be, but given that Die will have many a chance because there's lots more issues, I'm going to give it to Dust to Dust.
I get it.
Dust to Dust.
I mentioned, I read Gillen's newsletter. He mentioned that Die is currently planned to be about half the length of Wicked and Divine, which is going to end in the mid-40s, but it does have some extra specials that it had. So if you include those, it's probably around 50-ish issues. So you're probably looking at 20 to 25 issues total for Die. So a pretty contained story for comics.
All right, so top 5 books of the week then.
Yeah, so number one's Die, and number two's Blackbird. I mean, what do you want me to say?
You're so easy. Do you know what I'm worried about? I've given so many things an 8 and a 7.5. I'm actually, I don't think I can remember what I gave what in that sense. I'm just going to have to go with my heart.
Yeah. So those two, I think 3. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. 4 Star Wars 59, and then 5 I'm giving it to Domino 10 because that it was a nice capper to the run.
All right.
Feel bad leaving off X-23 though.
Yeah. X-23 is my number 1. I'm making up for it. Die's number 2. 3's Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Number 4 is Miles Morales Spider-Man. And number 5 is and we said we're excluding Dust to Dust, so I'll leave that off.
Yeah, only because you said you struggled separating the issues.
Yeah, no, I'll leave that off. Which leaves me in a really weird place where I've got a lot of things that are kind of
potentially there.
Kind of even, yeah. I'll give it to Avengers. I think Avengers was a nice because I think I had some issues with the last book, but in the last issue of it, but
yeah,
this one I kind of like the focus and what we learned about. I was tempted to give it to Uncanny, but
no, I get that. But both those reasonable choices.
But I'll give it to that. Even Outer Darkness, actually, I was tempted to give it to.
Yeah.
But okay, there you go. I remember to ask on Twitter for people. if you go to at DC Comics Podcast every week before this show and the DC Comics Podcast, we will ask you your favourite book of the week, and we'll ask you why, and if there's some interesting answers, we'll read them out. I don't know if I'd necessarily... Oh, I closed my Twitter tab. That was a poor choice. But I don't know if... we got a ton this week. Obviously, people are getting used to answering these every week. But Die was kind of the main one that people were saying.
Get it.
A lot of Die. At Carve_Nelson, Die was the best book I read all week. So I mean, that's...
what you're saying is our listeners have taste.
Yeah. At Tufty W23, otherwise known as James, someone we know.
The infamous James.
Yes, he said Die as well. Few other examples. A lot of dies. However, there was at least one voice for Uncanny X-Men number 9 at Carthanis. Uncanny 9 was awesome. I have been so on board with the new X-Men book. So someone's enjoying X-Men. That's cool.
Yeah, it was a good issue.
It was. No, I think that was the best one yet. So, again, I'm expecting it to dip next week, but I mean,
yeah, that's
what it is. We can do. So, and what funny thing is I forgot to actually put the tweet out before the DC show. So just quickly, we had some voices for Green Lantern issue 3, agreeing with you. At T_Van48. This week was probably Green Lantern number 3. Morrison said, "Screw you to subtlety," and it was glorious. I was kind of down on the first 2 issues, but now I'm all in. So that's someone who
turn them around. Yeah.
At Corey Wydon NWA, Young Justice had me smiling the entire time. Short and sweet, nice and simple. At McComb Factor, my favourite DC book of the week was Green Lantern issue 3, mainly for Liam Sharp's gorgeous art. I also liked the auction scene because it made me think, wow, if our planet was being sold, would it really look like damaged goods? And then there was another couple for Young Justice. So Young Justice and Green Lantern were the 2 competing for the DC vote of the week. We only said the DC ones because we forgot to do it on the DC show.
No, because you forgot.
Okay, I forgot. I always say, when I say we, I mean it's the show, the collective.
Yeah, but I don't want to be lumped in with your mistakes.
Shut up. But that is that. Which leads me to tell you what's coming next week. So coming up next week, assuming there's been no delays that I'm unaware of, we have Amazing Spider-Man issue 13, Uncanny X-Men number 10, Venom number 10, Fantastic Four number 6, Ironheart number 2, Conan the Barbarian number 2, Black Widow issue 1, Invaders issue 1. Connor's going to have Star Wars Age of Republic special issue 1. Outside of Marvel, we have Gideon Falls issue 10. We have Firefly number 3. Connor's catching up for that, I assume.
It's probably lower on my catch-up priority. But,
what?
Yeah, probably.
How dare you? Well, I'll be talking about Firefly issue 3 for sure. Don't worry. That'll get a whole 30 minutes to itself.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, I have got a full 5 issues of Gideon Falls to read, and I'd rather read that.
All right. You also have Isola issue 6, which I may or may not catch up on. I do have some catching up to do. If I end up liking Venom after a few more issues, I may have to catch up in that, and that's like 9 issues of catch up. So we'll see. But I have that. Skyward issue 10. That's a book we're really liking from Image. Issue 10 of that's coming out next week, which is the end of the second arc. And then Connor's also got Sonic issue 12, or sorry, Sonic the Hedgehog, to say its full title.
Yeah, I've got a handful of issues to catch up on that, the last arc. So, again, time permitting, it'll be for this issue.
But yeah, so that's what's coming next week. So we'll see how Black Widow issue 1 fares, and we'll see how the end of this Uncanny X-Men arc fares. But yeah, I think we also have to catch up on Ironheart, but it's only on issue 2, so
yeah,
that's a pretty easy one to promise.
I'm just looking at our schedule and seeing some oddities. That Sonic the Hedgehog 13 is the week after, and also we thought, oh yeah, okay, Uncanny 10, that's the end of the weekly, and then there's an annual the week after.
Okay, there's an annual, sure, but that's not.
Yeah.
When you said oddities, I thought you meant mistakes, but it's not.
No, oddities in that it felt weird.
Yeah, it's not my fault that their shipment schedule's wonky.
Yeah. No, I wasn't blaming you.
Well, they usually are. I mean, it's not that actually weird for me to assume that.
That is true, but not this time.
So, yeah. So that's next week. The week after, it's worth mentioning, the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer will have a comic based on it. And that's an issue 1, so Connor can't say that he's not catching up for it because he doesn't have to catch up on a thing.
I mean, I could just not read it, but I do actually want to read it, which is irritating because it feels like I'm giving in to you when I actually just want to read it anyway.
There was an early review on Newsarama today.
I don't care.
It was a 9 out of 10. I'm just saying.
I don't care.
Hype. Yeah.
I only say that because I don't actually follow Newsarama's reviews,
Nor
so
do
I have
I,
no
really.
benchmark for how, if I agree with their taste.
I only saw it because I was looking at news for the show. That's the only reason why I seen it.
Fair enough.
But I had to click on it and see the score, didn't I? Cause
Of course you did.
why wouldn't I? But yeah, so that's what's coming next week, and that pretty much wraps up the show. That wraps up Elsewhere in the Multiverse, number 3, third episode.
We're getting up there.
We're on a roll. This is a milestone episode.
We're going to catch up with that DC podcast.
Oh yeah, all 137 episodes.
Yeah. We'll pump some extras out somewhere.
Don't promise that.
We'll pull a Marvel.
Double shipping.
Yeah, we'll cook the numbers a bit, and we'll renumber, and then we'll legacy number, and we'll jump back up, and it'll suddenly be higher than it reasonably should be.
Are we splitting issues over 2 shows, or are we doing like a trade in the second half of the week to do the second episode?
We'll figure it out.
What's the protocol? Okay. None of this is happening, just to make this clear. But that is what else we're on the Multiverse. You can, of course, get us on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast. Yes, I know this has not been a DC Comics podcast, but our main show is a DC Comics podcast, and it's the same Twitter, so you can just deal with that. As I said at the start, there'll be links in the description to the store where you can buy some shirts and stuff, should you wish to. There's a 20% off code at it's what did I say earlier? Shirts 19 or Shirt 19, depending on if it's the UK or the US store.
Yeah.
So have a look at that. You can obviously subscribe, let us know what you thought of the books in the comments. All of that does help us, as of course does going over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, where you can support us for as little as $1 per month. So have a look over there too. But yeah, so that is us. So thank you very much once again for watching and listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading comic books, keep reading Marvel comics, and remember that assembly is required.